You. Did you know that there's a new Silent Hill movie coming out? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. Probably the least talked about announcement from the transmission last October, Return to Silent Hill is a film that's wrapped filming and has moved deep into post-production. Silent Hill has a complicated history with film adaptations. In fact, the first creative project donning the iconic IP following the Team Silent era was this movie. Simply titled Silent Hill, the film was released in 2006 to mixed reviews. Director Christoph Gans claimed himself to be a fan of the series, and personally, I do feel like that was shown in this work. I won't sit here and tell you that this film is a masterpiece in the horror genre. I actually don't really think it comes close. But despite the creative changes and odd decisions, for me personally, it's a pretty fun experience. And if you're a harsher critic, I won't blame you. Gant's choice to replace the instantly familiar Harry Mason with a female protagonist was a strange one. Supposedly he claimed that a mother figure searching endlessly for their child was more realistic than the game's scenario of Harry doing so, whatever the hell that means. The name changes also were a bit unnecessary, but I don't think they were so glaring as to ruin the experience of the film. In a vacuum, this thing is fun. A lot of the classic creatures are present, as well as a couple original ones, despite their not really belonging in a retelling of the first Silent Hill. I mean, come on. Look at old lying figure here, huh? He's stunning. You go, girl. I'll go over the film, but keep it as short as I possibly can for the sake of saving some time. Young girl Sharon, Mason De Silva. Seriously, these name changes. Sharon is having nightmares about a town called Silent Hill. Her mother Rose begins to worry about her daughter, who she learns was born in this town before she and her husband Herr Christopher adopted her. Desperate to find out more and hopefully solve their daughter's issues, Rose just straight up kidnaps her kid and takes her on a trip to a town that's been abandoned since the 1970s. Call me crazy, Mr. Gantz, but that doesn't really seem like loving mother behavior to me. During Rose's criminal escapade, she has a run-in with the law, and that law's name is Sybil Bennett, unchanged for some reason. Rose is able to speed away in her souped-up 2005 Jeep Liberty. No crooked cop stands a chance when you're driving that bad boy. Unfortunately, her joyride comes to an end when a girl steps out into the road, causing that sweet Liberty to crash and knocking Rose out for some reason, despite not dealing nearly enough damage to do so. When she awakes, Sharon is gone, and it's snowing. No, apparently it's ash now. There are fires burning under the town, so why not? Falling ash. Masahiro Ito, I'm sorry, please don't yell at me on Twitter, it's not my fault, I know it's snow. She wanders into town now in full panic as her daughter's missing. I feel like if you didn't kidnap her in the first place and bring her here, this doesn't happen, but what do I know? Standing in the middle of the street, would you know it? Sharon! So Rose begins to run after her, but for some reason her daughter runs off. Sirens begin to blare, and it's time for Nightmare Silent Hill. For what it's worth, this film is probably at its most interesting in this version of the town, though that probably wouldn't surprise anyone. Rose is then harassed by a bunch of gray children whose CGI, I'll admit, hasn't aged most spectacularly, but if I'm being honest, I'm just happy to see them included here. With censorship issues, their just being in the original Silent Hill game was an issue in some countries, so representation is nice. Rose is arrested by Sybil. They come in contact with Mr. Lying Figure, who despite not belonging here is looking mighty fine if I say so myself. The two become separated and then meet up again later, coming across a whole Mr. Pyramid Head, who also does not belong here, but looks hunky as hell. I gotta say it. Look at this man. He looks good. From here, the film pretty much follows the same narrative beats as the game. Rose learns of Alessa Gillespie, burned as a witch by a cult called the Brethren, and not the Order for some reason. When this happened, Alessa separated herself into two beings, her one half made of hatred, having stayed behind, turning Silent Hill into what it's become, and her other half holding her good and innocence, having turned into the young Sharon, Rose's daughter. Fast forward, Rose confronts the Brethren in the church after taking Alessa's dark spirit within her. Just prior to this, Sybil was burned at the stake and Sharon is now being prepared for the same fate. Rose is stabbed, and coming out of the wound is Alessa's darkness, manifesting, then spreading and killing all of those in the cult. Sharon and Alessa reunite back into one, and mother and daughter return home. Upon arrival, however, they're still in the other world and cannot return. And that is Christoph Gans' Silent Hill. Is it a great film? No. Is it fun? Hell yeah. The creatures and atmosphere, I think, are handled really well, and it feels throughout like this was a good-willed tribute to the franchise. Having only yamaoka tracks from the original games play throughout the film also only added to this feeling. Are some of the changes stupid and unnecessary? Yeah, but I don't think they're egregious enough to ruin the experience. Overall, it's just a fun time and a solid addition to the franchise at this point in its history. And then there's this movie. It's terrible and I hate it, and I don't really want to talk about Silent Hill Revelation 3D. It's a 2012 film directed by MJ Bassett and is technically the last media entry in the Silent Hill franchise. God, that's so sad. I'm gonna be brief with this one because, well, this movie's so bad that I don't really feel like rewatching it for the sake of research. If you notice, this film is not being directed by Christophe Gans, our French-speaking friend and director of 2006's Silent Hill. Remember how I said that film was not great, but seemed to be a product of love for the series? Well, this one's just bad, without any respect or admiration for the source material, and feeling more like it's a cash grab than anything else. This film loosely follows the events of Silent Hill 3, which makes sense as that game originally was the direct sequel to the first. Sharon and Christopher are back using fake names Heather and Harry Mason. Well, well, well. Despite this being a much worse movie, at least the names are right. Heather's being haunted by visions of Silent Hill, her father is kidnapped by the Order, and her new friend Vincent is sketchy. Also, hello Jon Snow, what a misfortune to see you here. Private Eye Douglas, after stalking Heather, decides to help her track her father down, but is shortly after killed by a monster in the Otherworld version of The Mall. Vincent takes her home, Heather reads some notes informing her of her true identity, and the two then take off toward Silent Hill. Sketchy Vincent reveals that he's the son of Claudia, the leader of the Order, also correctly named here, honestly props, and that he was instructed to bring her here. He's then taken away for betraying the cult. Fast forward, and Heather once again confronts Alessa, though I'm not entirely sure how the two became separated again after the first movie. I don't know if that's ever explained or not. The two embrace and join into one again, and Heather confronts Claudia to save Vincent and her father. Claudia is actually one of the least terrifying creatures Silent Hill has ever shown us, and Heather summons Pyramid Head to save her and kill Claudia. The end. Yeah. That's it. That's pretty much the whole movie. There's a lot to say here. I know Pyramid Head didn't belong in the first film either, but like, Heather summoning him to kill the big bad, like, what are we doing here? We have gotten so far away from Silent Hill that this is just kind of insane. I know Pyramid Head needs to stop showing up where he doesn't belong, first of all. Much of the visuals in this film just don't look at all like something out of Silent Hill. That sequence in the mall especially, where Heather sees everyone eating like flesh or something, is just strange. And honestly, I feel bad for the actors in this thing. Considering you have two members of the Stark family here and their performances are terrible, it's pretty telling that the direction on this thing just wasn't very good. In all, this film really just isn't worth your time, seriously. Don't seek it out. If you want to watch a Silent Hill film, watch the 2006 one. It's infinitely better. And those are the two film adaptations we have of Silent Hill. One decent, the other pretty worthless. And now, 11 years following the last movie, we're getting another. Return to Silent Hill, an adaptation of Silent Hill 2, back under the direction of Christophe Gans. Outside of some storyboard photos and a few of the main actors, we don't really have much info about this thing. All we can really do is speculate and give our own thoughts, so that's what I'm going to do before wrapping up here. I'd say my biggest, concern would be how much more difficult pulling off a story like Silent Hill 2 might be. Like I said earlier, despite the unnecessary changes made in the original film, it still worked. With Silent Hill 2, the story takes much more of the center stage. I don't think Gans and his writers would really be able to get away with changes in this instance. Beyond that, fans of the second game seem to be much more passionate and maybe a little annoying about how everything means something in the game. I do fear that any changes could cause some serious uproar from those people. I guess outside of concerns, I'm pretty interested to see how they intend to fill time. A lot of these games are solving puzzles until you get to the next story beat. Also, the strange acting in the original game. I doubt we would see any of that, so I wonder how this is going to turn out. I have my reservations. I know Christoph Gans, in my opinion, did a pretty decent job in the original film, but we're kind of dealing with a completely different animal when talking about Silent Hill 2. Anyway, that's Silent Hill on film. Let me know how you felt about the original films and of course the upcoming one as well, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Also, don't forget to subscribe, please, it would make me really happy. Bye!